I was not a fan of Flippa back in the days. If you typed in Flippa review on Google, my website used to come up and I had a very negative review of Flippa.
Oh no!
What are your thoughts generally on buying versus building? Should I build a digital asset on my own, or should I just buy it and then try to grow it?
But one of the things that the digital economy has enabled is institutional buyers to not only capitalize on the revenue or financial performance of an asset, but capitalize on the customer acquisition capability of an asset. If you think about Amazon and the size of the Amazon Associates program, which is their affiliate program, I believe something like 25% of Amazon's revenue is driven through the Amazon affiliate program, which is mostly a network of bloggers. If you're talking about a sustainable business which will ultimately generate a stable income over a longer period of time that is more predictable, I think then it's a different answer.
One thing that I always struggle with, even after all these years, I've built and sold a lot of websites. I've bought a lot of websites as well, but I still struggle with due diligence.
Think about all of the startup horror stories that are actually published in the mainstream media. Like, I'm talking about big, credible businesses. There is no business that's perfect. Flippa's not perfect. Having a large social footprint has not translated to being a dominant M&A platform. The reality is, growing a great company is a function of building awareness and converting it, not building awareness and converting it.
What would your advice be for someone who wants to start a digital asset, either with the goal to sell it or not, just be in the space, want to make money from that?
Hey, hello everyone. This video is very kindly sponsored by Hostinger. If you're looking for a great hosting company for your website, check out Hostinger. I have loads of websites with Hostinger, and these are the reasons why I love them. They're cheaper than most other hosting companies out there, and they offer a free domain when you buy a hosting. Number two, great support. I don't think these days I can work with a company that doesn't offer 24/7 support. Not for any company, and definitely not for a hosting company. Hostinger has 24/7 support, so if anything ever goes wrong with your website, you know where to reach them. Number three, they offer a bunch of add-ons for free when you buy a plan. Free migration of your website, free SSL, free CDN, free email management, and a bunch of other stuff. Check out Hostinger using the link in the description, and let's get back to the video.
Yeah, as I was saying, it's been a while. So yeah, welcome back, or I'd say welcome for the first time to the channel. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, it is. Last time we didn't see each other. It was an audio only thing. And
I
remember back in the days.
It's funny because when you reached out this time, I remembered your name and I knew we had chatted, but I couldn't remember the context.
Yeah. Back in the days, everyone was doing audio only podcasts. Good old days. And now they don't anymore. Dude, give us a quick intro of who you are, and then I would also be very curious to know how you got involved with Flippa, and then how you became the CEO of Flippa.
Yep. So I'm Blake Hutchison, and I'm the CEO at Flippa. Flippa is the largest M&A platform for online business owners globally. We represent business owners from all over the world, representing different asset types: YouTube channels, e-commerce businesses, SaaS businesses, blogs. Anything that is digital can be traded on the marketplace, find a home with a new buyer, and obviously then get the benefit and the value from blood, sweat and tears put in, get the output of some capital and move on to the next thing. I've been the CEO of Flippa for 6 years. So when you and I spoke last time, it would have been early days of my tenure here at Flippa. And it's my 6th year anniversary, I think this week actually, which is pretty funny. Wow. And exciting because we have so much more to achieve. But the short story of my involvement here is that, one, I was a customer of Flippa prior to obviously running Flippa. So I built a business and then utilized Flippa to exit, or at least attempt to exit that business. And I've had a history of working in growth roles, business development, partnership and sales roles for fast growing tech businesses, typically working for the founder. And so I have a very good sense for obviously growth businesses, but also founders and the way founders operate. And accordingly, the founders of Flippa, who had bootstrapped the business for 9 years prior to my involvement, had established and built a big vision around its future, decided that the time was now to professionalize the business, and they went hunting for a professional CEO. And they wanted someone who could understand the founder way of working, someone who had a history of executing very quickly, and someone who had a history of scaling growth businesses. And whilst I don't have marketplace experience, I've worked across accounting software, travel publishing, an online travel agency, e-commerce, SaaS, content publishing. So a sort of breadth of experience, and then going deep into each one of those business models in obviously scaling those businesses. And so that appealed because obviously we're a marketplace representing entrepreneurs regardless of business model, regardless of category, regardless of location. And the rest is history. I joined the business. From that point on, begun to professionalize the business, turn the business around, start to move up the value chain, add new categories, go into new markets, and recruit a great team. And here we are 6 years later. We're growing really quickly and strongly, and we've got substantial upside ahead of us over the next 3 to 5 years.
Nice. Can I give you a quick compliment? I was not a fan of Flippa back in the days. I even had, if you typed in Flippa review on Google, I think I got an angry email from Flippa as well back in the days, asking me to take it. I forgot, it was a very long time ago. It was like 8 or 9 years ago.
Yep.
If you typed in Flippa review on Google, my website used to come up, and I had a very negative review of Flippa.
Oh no!
It was a scammy marketplace, a lot of cheaters, a lot of scams and spams, generally bad quality digital assets, and I advise people not buying or selling anything on Flippa. It was a totally different marketplace back in the days. Everything was free. You didn't have to pay a listing fee to sign up. Those who know. And things have changed quite a bit in recent past, and now I pretty much go on Flippa at least once a week to look at assets. And I have had interesting chats with potential purchase opportunities as well in like recent past, in the last 2-3 months, and I would probably end up buying 1 or 2 as well. So yeah, well done.
That's really nice to hear. I mean, obviously marketplaces are difficult, and you're dealing with customers all over the world, and our job is to ensure that it's a safe and secure place where obviously both investor as well as entrepreneur looking to exit can do, can successfully trade without feeling that they're inhibited by bad actors or that something will go wrong. And we've obviously invested an enormous amount of time, effort, and money into ensuring that the platform is 1, A grade, 2, full of great assets, and 3, safe.
Nice. How difficult is it to grow a marketplace compared to like a traditional digital business, let's say an e-commerce?
It's a hard thing to articulate, but it's a lot harder. And I would say there's probably 2 main reasons for that. The first one is obviously your first set of customers can't trade without your second set of customers.
What do you mean by that?
So you have a supply and a demand side. Yeah. And obviously what tends to happen in business is you create a product or you buy a product and then you on-sell that product. Obviously, in a marketplace context, you don't necessarily create a product and you don't on-sell a product. You're reliant on your sell side who has created the product, who wants to on-sell the product. And then you're hoping that the quality of that sell side matches the needs of the demand side and that you can adequately find them a partner to do dealings with in a fastest possible way and in the safest possible way. And the fact that you've got not 1 human to sell to, but 2 humans to sell to makes it complex. The second thing that is complex is the matching itself. So it's one thing to have 1,000 sellers and 1,000 buyers. It's another thing to have 1,000 sellers that are relevant for 1,000 buyers. And so figuring out the matching algorithm and making sure that you can do that constructively and quickly on behalf of both parties makes it unique. And then pricing. So typically in a traditional SaaS business or an e-commerce business or a publishing business, you control pricing. You might get it wrong, but it's still your decision. So I tell you that I want to sell you this influencer marketing software and I'm going to charge you $199 a month.
Yeah.
I might get it wrong, but it's still my choice. Whereas in a marketplace context, pricing is dictated by the supply side. And until you've got an enormous amount of data, your ability to influence the supply side is poor. Once you have a lot of data and can give them preciseness and predictability, it improves, but you're still always battling between what you think is the right price and what they want. And that is unique to a marketplace experience.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that problem will probably never go away, right? Yeah.
No. I mean, I think AI makes it a lot easier, right? Because you can run large data sets through a predictability engine and give some person, some seller, great confidence around a pricing algorithm.
Gotcha. You mentioned growth a couple of times. Before you joined Flippa, you said you worked in like growth positions, and also you grew Flippa quite substantially over the last 5 or 6 years. Give us some growth hacks or like growth strategies that we can use in our businesses, not marketplaces. Like most of my audience would probably have, they'd probably have a publishing business or an agency or a regular e-commerce or an F-commerce, as they say in Bangladesh, like business that have a website, but they do most of their transaction within Facebook. So digital businesses.
So I think it's best to speak of real examples, and hopefully those examples can inspire others to think through the problems that their businesses may be facing and growth opportunities accordingly. So one example for us was that our valuation experience, the valuation bot, whereby we take on inputs from an entrepreneur and we give them a price or a valuation, indicative valuation for their business based on historical sales data. We noticed that was converting very poorly on mobile. And so first thing is, do you understand the conversion rate on desktop versus mobile? And so we understood that it was converting far worse. And we had to then figure that out because 55% of Flippa's traffic is mobile traffic. And so it appeared that there were two major problems. The bot itself was rendering poorly in a mobile experience. And the freeform text box where you begin the bot experience rendered so poorly that it almost looked transparent. And so we had to, and in fact, the bot layer was bigger than the UI itself. So it was poorly designed, bigger than the mobile UI itself. And so by thinking through that, and actually you'll notice that if you look up the valuation experience on mobile versus desktop, on desktop it goes straight into the bot. On mobile it says, please click here to start your experience. And we got a 44% increase week on week on our mobile experience from that optimization. And so that's not rocket science. That's just observing the data and then making smart design decisions which are in the interest of the customer. And as a result of that, our SDRs, sales development representatives, have more leads to call upon. And as a result of that, we've seen a record number of listings. And so that's an obvious growth hack that I think almost anyone can benefit from thinking through. The second one is don't underestimate where customers will begin their journey. And so we had historically believed that most people would start their experience from either the sell page, which is I want to sell, therefore I will start the onboarding process, or from the valuation page. I want a valuation, therefore I will value my business with Flippa. And what we had ignored was that a lot of people wanted to see who the buyers were before they went through that process, or see some insights that would govern the likelihood of them selling, multiples, both revenue and profit, time to sell, the types of buyers that would be interested, etc. So they wanted some data. So we built some new funnels, and those new funnels expose new opportunities for the customer base to start their experience with Flippa. And as a result of that, we were able to increase leads on a 3-month window 22%.
Nice.
And so the point being is we underestimated just how many different pathways to enter the selling experience there should be. And we had tried to put the customers inside one of 2 boxes that we had defined. And as a result of that, we didn't necessarily limit growth because we've been growing really well. But we've perhaps lifted the lid on new opportunities for growth.
Makes sense. Who do you think should think about investing in a digital asset? Who's the ideal person of someone who should now think about investing in digital assets?
So I think the ideal person is someone who has responsibility for a digital project or digital orientated role in an organization today that is not theirs.
Okay.
I think they're actually perfectly poised. So if you're running SEO for a business, you're running performance marketing for a business, you're running content marketing for a business, you're building product for a digital business, potentially even selling into a customer base of an online business or tech startup, you have a very strong sense surrounding yourself with other professionals working at the company, as well as you have your own skill set. And accordingly, you then have a very strong understanding for the things that make businesses work and don't work, the experiments that you've observed and your boss or some other peer has spoken through. And you then got an unfair advantage when you go up against others who are considering investing in the asset class. So I think they're a perfect candidate for entrepreneurship through acquisition. You know, clearly there is a different group of buyers, and those buyers are institutional buyers. Now, this is interesting because institutional buyers would historically have gone after bigger businesses. But one of the things that the digital economy has enabled is institutional buyers to not only capitalize on the revenue or financial performance of an asset, but capitalize on the customer acquisition capability of an asset. And so I think the next perfect buyer for a digital asset is in fact an institutional buyer who is running a traditional business that needs to tap into the digital economy and use it for its customer acquisition or inorganic growth capability.
Makes sense. Do you see a lot of institutional buyers on Flippa?
Mostly. So
Mostly.
By absolute number of deals completed, it's clearly not institutional buyers, but by absolute value of deals completed, it's overwhelmingly institutional buyers. So it's the classic 80-20 rule. 80% of our revenue is made up from 20% of our buyers, and those 20% of buyers are institutional.
Gotcha. Yeah, makes sense because they're buying high value assets. So yeah, the number will be bigger. What are your thoughts generally on buying versus building? Should I build a digital asset on my own, or should I just buy it and then try to grow it? And then I also have, actually, let me ask the other one first. Let's say, again, on the same point of who should invest in a digital asset. Let's assume you said you just sold your first YouTube channel for over $1 million last week. Let's imagine I watch YouTube. I watch YouTube every day on my mobile, on desktop. I like YouTube. But I've never had a YouTube channel. I don't really care about how someone runs their YouTube channel. I go on Flippa, I find YouTube channels, and when I look at Flippa categories, YouTube channel is the thing that I understand the most because I consume YouTube every day. Should I now invest in a YouTube channel from Flippa?
No, Not unless you know how to create good quality content.
And the same rule will apply to all categories, right?
The most important thing for people to realize is that whilst the asset class is very appealing from a returns standpoint, returns are only derived through operational capability. And so if I'm buying a business that is doing $5,000 net profit monthly, then therefore $60,000 annually, I will pay absolute minimum 2 times for that asset. So that's a $120,000 investment. For that $120,000 investment, my job is to ensure that it can continue to make the $60,000 that it did prior year, the next year post-acquisition. Being able to continue to derive $60,000 net and retain the performance of the prior year means you must understand how it did that in the first place and have the capability to run it to at least the same level. If you can do that, it's a wonderful asset class because you just got yourself a 50% return on investment in year 1. And there's almost no other asset class in the world that can give you that return. But if you don't have the operational capability, the risk is greater.
Yeah, the risk is losing 120. Okay, let's tackle the other point then, buying versus building. Again, similar scenario. Should I first try to grow a YouTube channel on my own? Let's stick to the YouTube channel or pick a blog. Should I try to grow one first, or should I learn from somewhere and then immediately buy an asset and try to grow that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm very biased given the business that I run.
Yeah.
But the real point here is play the odds. So around 20% of small businesses fail within their first year of operation. Let's face it, if you're buying a blog, if you're building a blog, building a YouTube channel, starting a bakery, it's a small business. So 20% of small businesses fail within their first year of operation. Now, within 5 years, 50% have failed. 50% have failed. So the odds aren't great. 1 in 2 businesses that are started die. That is a bad bet to place on your own capability. Buy a business that is already doing well, that is already generating revenue, that already has a customer base, that already has a traffic base, that already has a platform. These are all the things that you need to figure out how to build and understand in the first 12 to 36 months of operation. You are essentially a CEO. And that's what most people forget. Starting a small business, you're now the boss. You're expected to be able to do the things that enable your business to grow. And buying a business accelerates your pathway to cash flow positivity, because the business you acquire is, in fact, cash flow positive. And the likelihood of that business continuing to perform at the levels that it has historically are far higher than the likelihood of you being able to build a business to that scale in the first place.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool. So you run Flippa, so you have a ton of data. If you had to start a side hustle with an intention to, let's say, sell it in next 3 years, and it has to be digital, and you can't spend more than $5,000 to start it, what side hustle would you start and why and how?
So if I was starting something from scratch and not deploying the $5,000 on something to acquire, I would probably still start a blog.
Okay.
Now, the reason being is that it's still probably the most understood asset class. So ultimately, there is huge amounts of data on search volume for categories and niches. And you can orientate your attention around those categories and niches and find untapped, low competition, high volume keywords that you can create blogs around and still win free traffic relatively quickly. Whereas if I start an e-commerce business, I have to either make something or buy something. I then have to land it, so bring it into my garage, my warehouse, my bedroom. I then have to market it, so merchandise it. Then I have to market it and win the customer. Then I have to fulfill and ship. And then I have to do that multiple times over. So think about the steps that are required to be undertaken to derive customers in an e-commerce context versus in a blog. It would seem to me that the fastest pathway to your first $100, first $1,000, first $10,000 in revenue was still a blog. Now, if you said to me what business model is more likely to succeed in the long run and more likely to derive $1 million or greater in revenue, I think that's a different question and a different answer. As it relates to putting $5,000 to work and being able to return the $5,000 in the quickest possible fashion, I would say a blog in a high volume keyword category monetized via AdSense.
Why did you say blogging, a blog is the most misunderstood business category? Why is that?
I think it's probably most misunderstood because people still see blogs as hobby businesses, when in fact they kind of rule the web. You got 600 million blogs commanding most of the web's traffic, and they are in fact the beginning of the commerce experience for most people. Be it a very big blog or a very small blog, they are hugely beneficial for driving the rest of the commerce world, be that e-commerce or SaaS or a marketplace. And so if you think about Amazon and the size of the Amazon Associates program, which is their affiliate program, I believe something like 25% of Amazon's revenue is driven through the Amazon affiliate program, which is mostly a network of bloggers. So I think what is most misunderstood is its influence on the rest of the commerce environment.
Gotcha. The first website I sold was for $4.5 or $5.5 grand, was with Flippa back in the days when Flippa was bad, and it was monetized with Amazon's associate program, Amazon affiliate program. And then I sold a couple more with some of your competitors, and then I stopped creating new blogs and went into the agency life. But yeah, blogging is great. But at the same time, don't you think people only read blogs now when they need information, and the hobby blog readers are gone? They move to YouTube and social media?
I mean, obviously, I look at it through the lens of the online publishers and bloggers that I see on Flippa successfully exiting their businesses. And, you know, if I think about one of the blogs that exited last month, I think it was August, it wasn't enormous, but in the scheme of things, given the audience that we're talking to today, it would be perceived as, you know, high value. It was a $600,000 blog, and it was the homeschooling ecosystem and industry. And so all over the US, there is a industry and of homeschoolers, and they are heavily reliant on content, curriculum, tutorials, guides, all of the things that blogs are still good at being able to deliver to someone. And the site was making most of its money from either downloadables or from referring traffic to other sites that could benefit homeschool teachers, i.e. mums and dads around America.
Yeah.
Highly lucrative, mostly free traffic, therefore very high margin, relatively low cost to continue to operate, and mostly free cash flow. And so from that perspective, you could be right, but from the lens that I see it through, I'm still looking at blogs generating hundreds of thousands, if not millions of page views for highly specific keywords.
Blogging is the easiest business to start. I still feel that, and blogging is probably, it'll not take $5,000 to start a blog for sure. Especially if you write your own content. Designing a blog is nothing massive, so you can probably do that on your own as well. But I don't think it'll be the fastest to reach $100, let's say, because with ecom you can easily push paid ads and then scale that. With blog, you'll have to do, if you're reliant on SEO, then maybe if you're lucky 8 months, if you're unlucky maybe 5 years. So you never know.
So that's a good point. I think if you're talking about the fastest way to make $100, definitely not. Okay. If you're talking about a sustainable business which will ultimately generate a stable income over a longer period of time that is more predictable, I think then it's a different answer.
So you will start a blog as a side hustle?
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm not starting a business as a side hustle. I think that the likelihood of me creating something viable over the long term is unlikely.
How one thing that I always struggle with, even after all these years, I've built and sold a lot of websites. I bought a lot of websites as well, but I still struggle with due diligence. I always feel like I can't trust the seller. I don't know why. I always look for things that can go wrong, and when, I don't know if the same happens with you, you look at a Flippa listing on day one and you're excited. I'll give you a real life example. There was a Flippa website that I was super interested in buying. So I made an offer and I spoke with the seller. I think it was like 12 grand or 13,000 euro ish. So not a massive purchase, but decent size, I'd say. Yeah. So I spoke with my bank as well, and I was about to go to the bank the next day. So first day I was super excited, excitement level 100. And then after a night's sleep, I then went back again, and then I started looking for problems specifically. On first day, I didn't have that in my mind. And then there was nothing super wrong with the website, but the seller had another website in the same, basically had another replica website in the very similar industry. And then I didn't go ahead with the purchase. And I feel like due diligence is always a pain because I never know how to find everything that the seller is potentially trying to hide. I don't know. And that's probably one big reason for me not trying to buy a digital asset like every month.
Yep. I would argue that it's actually pretty similar to other asset classes.
Okay.
So as a buyer of a digital asset, you have whether it's written down or whether you do it on the fly, you have some expectations for what the asset is, does, and will perform like. And you probably have a budget, you have a multiple in mind, you have a category, you have a performance level expectation. And I think similarly, if you were to go and buy an apartment or a house or a car, you would have some expectations. And my gut says that nearly every time, regardless of the asset class, you're unlikely to meet your expectations on 100% of the things that you are looking for. And so there is no business that is perfect. Think about all of the startup horror stories that are actually published in the mainstream media. Like I'm talking about big, credible businesses. There is no business that's perfect. Flippa's not perfect. So when we think about a $13,000 asset, do you really expect that it's going to be perfect? There is no chance it's perfect. So what should you actually do due diligence on? You should do due diligence on the revenue performance. So if it says that it's deriving $5,000 in revenue, then they should be able to prove that it's deriving $5,000 in revenue. If they say that it's doing $4,000 in cost, should you be able to prove that it's doing $4,000 in cost? Yes, but let's say for argument's sake, I have someone who produces content for me. And let's say for argument's sake, they charge me 1 month $4,250 and 1 month $4,000 and 1 month $3,900. And let's say for argument's sake, for the sake of the sales experience, I averaged it. Okay, now we would not condone that. And for any asset listed over $50,000, we human verify everything. So we would not condone it. But let's just say that I averaged my content costs out over the course of a 12-month period, and you were to conduct due diligence. And last month it was $4,226 and not $4,000. Well, that's exactly the reason you do due diligence for. Is the business worse as a result of that? I would argue it's not. Are you within reason? Can you now renegotiate the price? Absolutely. So due diligence is there to protect your investment. It's not there to guarantee that the business is foolproof.
Gotcha. Are these the things that you look at when someone takes the Flippa due diligence service for a listing?
Yes. So if someone uses the Flippa due diligence service, yes, we are going to go down at a microscopic level and we are going to report everything. But if you're talking about doing your own due diligence, I would say that it is very important to understand that you can pick and choose which deals you do. No one is forcing you to do any deals. But for you to expect that you won't uncover problems, well, that's an unlikely expectation that will ever be met.
Gotcha.
Because every business has problems.
I saw you acquired, I think it's been like 3 years when you acquired, or maybe 2, Richard's newsletter for, I think the newsletter was about newsletters or about acquisition. And I think Flippa bought that, right? The newsletter and the Discord.
Yes.
What was the thought process behind that, and how's that been since then?
So the thought process was, Richard's a smart guy. He understood our community. He's been a part of the Flippa ecosystem for some time. It was somewhat of an acqui-hire. We knew we would then be able to leverage Richard for the expansion of our newsletter category, for the development of our community, and for the maintenance of our existing Discord. And so that was the thesis, and it worked out well in the sense that he was able to bring to the table expertise that we didn't have and knowledge about a category that we needed to develop so that we could successfully build the newsletter category and successfully run that. Do we think that Discord is the right community for us? No, we don't. We have a very large community. We're still trying to figure out exactly what our community strategy is and how we will run that. But the newsletter category has been really great. And, you know, for a long time there, we believed that the best way to communicate with that community was by way of a newsletter about newsletters.
Yeah.
As it's turned out, you know, we were able to migrate all of those people into our existing daily, and our daily is a deal digest. Yeah. And as it turns out, people love our deal digest, so we haven't had the need to develop another newsletter.
Gotcha. what are your general thoughts about newsletters? Do you think they'll grow as a category on Flippa, or as in general, should people try building newsletters as a business?
So I think they're media businesses. Okay. And media businesses are generally very good with large audiences and very, very likely very poor with small audiences. And the reason being is the best media businesses are working with premium advertisers.
Yeah.
And so when you don't have a large enough audience, it tends to be slim pickings. You can't find enough people to work with to monetize your community. So that would be piece one. Piece two would be it has become a competitive category. And so starting something from scratch now in a very mature category is going to be difficult, much like it would be to create a blog or even a YouTube channel. Frankly, let's say you're creating an e-commerce business for gym equipment. Well, there's plenty of e-commerce businesses for gym equipments. So I think newsletters as a business model are outstanding so long as they have achieved scale, which is why we think buying and selling them is so good.
Yeah.
And then we also think they're really great as bolt-ons. So if you're a business that is, whatever, e-commerce for gym equipment, not sure why that's front of mind, and you can buy a newsletter that is read by gym enthusiasts, then I think that's an outstanding way to think about customer acquisition.
Cool. Is there, and I'm sure you do, but can you tell us any new categories or asset types that you're planning to launch on Flippa?
Well, we just went crazy. So we basically ran 5 categories for 15 years. And in the last 6 weeks, have added another 5 categories.
So it was YouTube, newsletter, domain, what else?
No, we didn't launch. We've had domains for a long time, but AI and it's AI and plugins.
Okay.
And digital agencies.
Oh, wow. Nice. Do you see a lot of AI listings on the platform now? How are the... No, you don't?
No, very nascent industry. So the average asset that sells on Flippa is 4.5 years old, believe it or not. And so if you think about AI as a category, we are very bullish and very excited about AI as a category for Flippa. But as it relates to number of listings for the new categories, so YouTube, we scaled very fast. We've now got 50 live listings for YouTube. It's been a category for maybe 6 to 8 weeks. We sold $1 million YouTube channel last week. Newsletters, I think there's 20 to 30 newsletters for sale right now. Plugins and Chrome extensions, I think there's 5 to 10, so very few. And AI, I think there might be 1 or 2. And so, Flippa's in this for the long run. And so clearly we sell a lot of e-com, a lot of content, a lot of SaaS, and a lot of apps. And in the future, we believe we will sell a lot of YouTube, a lot of AI, a lot of plugins, a lot of digital agencies.
Makes sense. So yeah, you mentioned community Discord when we were chatting about the Richard acquisition. Flippa's digital presence is not that great as a company. Would you agree?
Yeah, it depends on how you define it. Our SEO traffic is, 80% market share.
Yeah, no, SEO is great. Actually, let me ask you that. I saw I'm not sure how credible the source is, so I'll not mention the source, but I saw you are now 70% of the M&A marketplace.
So here's my view on this. If you are a seller of a company that is digital, you're actually stupid to sell anywhere else because we own all of the demand. So we are SaaS businesses for sale, buy SaaS businesses. YouTube channels for sale, buy YouTube channels. Blogs for sale, buy blogs. E-commerce for businesses for sale. We own all the keywords. We own SERP position 1 for every one of them. And so if you're actually looking to sell to the largest pool of buyers and drive competitive tension and get a deal done at the right price among digital asset investors, there's no other place to do it. And obviously I'm very biased, but just go to the data. And so, we kind of dominate the digital footprint in that regard.
You do when it comes to search, but when I look at social, you don't really, it's not like you do a lot and you fail, you just don't do anything at all. So if I look at your anything, pick anything, Twitter is probably your most active one, and you have like 90,000 followers there, and the other ones, pick any other ones, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, anything, TikTok, YouTube. You basically don't do anything in any of those other platforms as a company. Is there any specific reason why not?
I would originally have said skill set. We don't have the skill set in-house. But knowing what I now know, having spoken to some major competitors of ours who have shown us their businesses, having a large social footprint has not translated to being a dominant M&A platform.
Did it hurt, or it didn't matter?
Didn't matter. You get a lot of people who say, this is amazing, I would like to buy and sell businesses. The reality is, growing a great company is a function of building awareness and converting it. Not building awareness. Building awareness and converting it.
Yeah, makes sense. So where do you see Flippa go in like next 10, 20 years, both as a company from your end and also in the general M&A space? Do you see people investing in assets for next 10, 20 years in the same categories as they are now?
So first and foremost, we have built an M&A platform, and that is different to what the Flippa marketplace has been for 15 years. And that will change what we are as a company. So under the hood, we have a very rich feature set. Mm-hmm. We have modularized legal, where someone can build a asset purchase agreement that has been negotiated on both sides, that covers the terms as required by both parties with e-sign. That is something which is embedded in the platform and would be beneficial to anyone in the M&A community, but it's not available to them because it's hooked to the marketplace feature. We've got the first ever subscale M&A insurance product for our American customers, and we're about to launch that across the globe. So where I see Flippa going, to answer the question, is M&A for everyone. That's piece one. As it relates to the categories themselves, I think that the digital economy is still extraordinarily nascent, actually. And therefore, all of the categories that we operate in, I would imagine will be 3, 5, 10, and 20 times bigger than they are today. You can't possibly tell me that e-commerce is going away, and you can't possibly tell me that in 5 years' time, the average good quality e-commerce business wouldn't be bigger than they are today. And so I think that over time, Flippa will therefore be moving up the value chain. It will consistently represent higher value deals. And over time, the entrepreneurs that we represent will be more sophisticated in nature, but I think the categories will be mostly the same.
Gotcha. Last question before, thanks for all the time. It's been like 47, 48 minutes-ish, I think. I have never actually tried Flippa Invest. I saw it as an option in my Flippa dashboard, but I've never used it. Would you mind explaining what that is and how to use it, or should I even think about using it?
So Flippa Invest. So your question was, what is Flippa Invest and should I use it? So Flippa Invest was something that we launched a couple of, probably 18 months to 24 months ago now. And we launched it as an MVP, a proof of concept. And it enabled small business owners of the type that have traditionally used Flippa, but of the type that are not currently wanting to exit and instead would like to get growth capital, to leverage our platform, our access to investors, and ask those investors for growth capital to continue to run and scale their businesses. Flippa Invest will relaunch in a short period of time.
Okay.
And so Flippa Invest enables an entrepreneur to raise growth capital instead of debt. And so around the world, you have multiple providers who will provide you debt capital. Of course, the big ones are PayPal, Stripe, Facebook, Clearco, and Square. And those tech companies will all enable you to take on debt at a very high cost and repay that debt from your cash flow. That's great, but that's not what we are doing. What we are doing is enabling that same type of customer to capitalize on our enormous investor pool and request from that investor pool parcels of capital in exchange for equity.
Okay, so it's like startup investing.
Yes, but they are good quality small businesses, not shooting for the moon, just creating good quality, operationally sound businesses.
Understood. Last question, Blake, before I let you go. What would your advice be? You've been in the industry for a very long time. What would your advice be for someone who wants to start a digital asset, either with the goal to sell it or not, just be in the space, want to make money from that? What would your advice be for someone who wants to be in this space or wants to get into this space?
Yes, the first thing I've always encouraged people to do is write down the category that you're very passionate about.
Okay.
Because the best businesses are built on longevity.
By category, do you mean like, is it a blog or an e-commerce, or like specific like plans, gym equipment?
More categories. So the category would be, I love health food. The category would be, I love marathons. The category would be, I love wrestling. Whatever. What is a category that you're passionate about? The second thing I would do is write down all of the things that you're really good at. Are you good at creating content? Are you good at taking photos? Are you good at selling? Are you good at X, Y, and Z? Write down all of the things that you're really good at. The third thing I would do is I would jump on GPT and I would say, what are the metrics that matter for each of the following business models? E-commerce, blogging, YouTube channel creation, building and developing an app. What are the metrics that govern those? And then what I would do was I would attempt to overlay the skills that you have written down with the metrics that govern how these businesses run and see if you can find synergy. So for instance, a blog is essentially built on a revenue per page view metric. A page view is a function of someone reading content. If you don't know how to create content, then one of the other skills you should have written down is you know how to recruit people for cheap. Yeah. And therefore you can find content writers. Point being is I encourage people to write down what they're passionate about, what they're good at, and find the overlap.
Perfect. All right then. Thanks, Blake. Thanks for making the time. And yeah, I really appreciate this. And good luck with everything that you do on Flippa.
Awesome, Farhan. Thank you so much for your time.